When Adam Neumann co-founded WeWork in 2010, he promised nothing less than a revolution in how people work and live. Instead of dreary, impersonal office cubes, WeWork offered stylish, community-driven spaces where freelancers, startups, and even major corporations could mingle in an atmosphere reminiscent of a hip cafe. Not long after its founding, the company was hailed as a disruptive real estate startup that would reshape commercial property markets around the world. However, by late 2019, the company's much-anticipated IPO had imploded amid questions about its valuation, its leaders' decision-making, and the viability of a business model that had once been the talk of Silicon Valley. Today, we'll explore the meteoric rise of WeWork, Adam Neumann's role in shaping its image, and the dramatic fall that became a cautionary tale of excess and unchecked ambition. Adam Neumann and Miguel McKelvey founded WeWork on a straightforward idea: flexible workspaces in prime city locations, offered through short-term memberships rather than long-term leases. Their first foray, Green Desk in Brooklyn, debuted as an eco-friendly co-working space. They sold that initial venture and launched WeWork in Manhattan, focusing on a hip, communal vibe geared toward a rapidly growing class of freelancers, creatives, and entrepreneurs. WeWork positioned itself not just as a landlord, but as a community builder. The brand identity revolved around lofty ideals of collaboration and personal growth. Neumann's pitch was that renting a desk at WeWork could open doors to business partners, friendships, and personal transformation, turning the office into a lifestyle brand. Venture capital firms, intrigued by WeWork's branding and apparent potential, poured money into the startup. Key among them was Benchmark, known for its successful bets on Uber and Twitter, and later, SoftBank's Vision Fund, which became WeWork's largest investor and a key player in the company's later implosion. With each funding round, WeWork was valued higher, fueling rapid expansion into new cities and new lines of business. Adam Neumann quickly became a central character in WeWork's story. Tall, charismatic, and unafraid of grandiose statement, he embodied the company's aspirational ethos. Drawing on an eclectic background, he had served in the Israeli Navy, tried launching a baby clothing line, and attended college in New York. Neumann projected the aura of a relentless entrepreneur who believed WeWork was bigger than co-working. Under Neumann, WeWork branched out in multiple directions. WeLive, co-living spaces with fully furnished apartments and communal amenities. WeGrow, an experimental foray into education, offering a private school with a curriculum supposedly focused on entrepreneurship and global awareness. Rise by We, a wellness endeavor, including upscale gyms and health clubs. As the brand diversely spread, critics wondered if WeWork was overextending itself. Neumann framed these new ventures as part of a grand mission to reshape how people live and learn, not just where they work. Neumann's personality was key to WeWork's hype. He spoke passionately about elevating the world's consciousness, encouraging employees to buy into the notion of a transformative global mission. This cult of personality drew comparisons to charismatic founders like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. Yet rumors of lavish spending, partying, and hazy lines between personal and corporate finances also began to circulate. Stories of tequila shots at executive meetings and corporate retreats more akin to music festivals than sober business gatherings hinted at potential cracks in WeWork's facade. From the outset, WeWork's business approach was to lease massive amounts of office space long-term, renovate it with stylish interiors, then rent it out in smaller chunks at a premium. This capital-intensive model worked as long as growth stayed high and demand for co-working soared. Investors repeatedly funded the expensive expansion on the assumption that WeWork could become a dominant global platform, akin to how Airbnb reshaped hospitality or Uber changed transportation. SoftBank's Vision Fund, steered by Masayoshi Son, committed billions of dollars to WeWork. Son was known for backing ambitious entrepreneurs, believing that rapid global scaling could guarantee market dominance. The result? WeWork's valuation soared from a few billion to $47 billion by early 2019. The infusion of capital fueled breakneck expansion, with WeWork opening new locations in quick succession, often offering discounted rents to lure tenants. Behind the scenes, WeWork burned cash. Leasing offices at commercial rates, renovating them, and waiting for tenant sign-ups required constant funding. WeWork's revenue grew rapidly, but expenses often outpaced revenue, leading to steep quarterly losses. Adam Neumann dismissed concerns, citing the idea that only rapid growth could help WeWork achieve economies of scale. Yet analysts questioned whether the company could ever reach profitability, particularly in a recession or if demand for co-working softened. By 2019, WeWork was ready to go public. The company's S-1 filing, which lays bare financial data and business risks for prospective investors, quickly ignited controversy. Observers were stunned by the scale of losses and by revelations about WeWork's governance and related party transactions involving Adam Neumann. Key concerns from the IPO paperwork included Neumann's outsized voting power. The proposed share structure gave him tremendous control, even if his economic stake was reduced. Deals with Neumann. He owned buildings that WeWork had leased, raising conflict of interest question. He even trademarked the word "we" and then sold that trademark to WeWork for nearly $6 million. He later returned the money amid public backlash. Non-GAAP metrics. WeWork introduced creative financial metrics, like community-adjusted EBITDA, that painted the company in a more favorable light, but seemed to obscure its true losses. Investors recoiled. Public market scrutiny was far harsher than private funding. Journalists and analysts lambasted WeWork for its governance, the CEO's lavish personal loans, and the lack of a clear path to profitability. SoftBank also faced pressure, as an overvalued WeWork threatened to tarnish the Vision Fund's reputation. WeWork ended up delaying the IPO, then scrapped it entirely. With the IPO debacle, Adam Neumann found himself at the center of a storm. The board demanded changes, and SoftBank realized drastic measures were required to salvage WeWork from outright collapse. In September 2019, Neumann stepped down as CEO. Reports indicated that his role would shift to non-executive chairman. SoftBank soon orchestrated a rescue deal, injecting billions of dollars to keep WeWork afloat. Neumann, in turn, walked away with an exit package worth hundreds of millions, including the buying out of his shares, sparking public outcry that a leader whose decisions contributed to the crisis was being handsomely rewarded. SoftBank installed new leadership, aiming to streamline WeWork, cut costs, and refocus on core co-working. Thousands of layoffs followed, as well as closures of side businesses like WeGrow. Once a high-flying startup brimming with expansions and acquisitions, WeWork under new management prioritized consolidating, renegotiating leases, and showing more traditional financial discipline. Post-crisis, WeWork remains a major player in the co-working space. With a refocused business model, it still operates hundreds of locations worldwide, but its valuation has plummeted from the $47 billion peak to a fraction of that. While demand for flexible office space rebounded somewhat after the COVID-19 pandemic forced companies to rethink real estate, WeWork continues to face scrutiny over lease liabilities, occupancy rates, and ongoing losses. Despite the fallout, Neumann landed on his feet financially. He receded from the public eye for a time, though rumors swirled about new ventures. In 2022, he re-emerged with a high-profile real estate startup, Flow, backed by Andreessen Horowitz to the tune of $350 million. The controversy over whether VCs should fund another Neumann-led venture remains an emblem of Silicon Valley's appetite for big, if risky, bets. WeWork's fiasco, alongside the collapses of other high-valuation unicorns, triggered debates about corporate governance, founder power, and the pitfalls of private capital inflating valuation. Investors became more cautious about leaders who shun accountability and run businesses more on hype than on fundamental. The fiasco became a reference point for how not to take a company public. WeWork's story is, at its core, a tale of ambition colliding with financial reality. Vision versus execution. Adam Neumann championed a grand narrative of community, but WeWork's fundamental business was leasing real estate at scale, a capital-intensive model vulnerable to market swings. The mismatch between lofty storylines and practical constraints eventually caught up. Governance matters. An unconventional founder can inspire a team, but a lack of effective checks and balances can lead to questionable decisions. The WeWork fiasco is often cited in discussions about dual-class shares, board oversight, and related party transactions. Hype has limits. Private investors sometimes chase disruptive ideas with oversized valuation, hoping winners can dominate new markets. But when taking a company public, an IPO demands open scrutiny. WeWork's unraveling demonstrates that no amount of hype can hide problematic financials or governance issues once the public lens sharpens. Focus on fundamentals. Attractive office decor, free beer, and networking events can't mask a structurally unprofitable model if overhead and lease costs exceed revenue. The lesson for startups: scaling fast is no substitute for building a sustainable path to profitability. WeWork's rise and fall stands as one of the most dramatic business stories of the 2010s. Under Adam Neumann's charismatic leadership, the company appeared destined to revolutionize the global workplace. Venture capitalists and media outlets celebrated its astronomical valuation as further proof that Silicon Valley-style disruption could even remake the staid world of real estate. Yet the house of cards came crashing down during the IPO attempt, exposing weak financials, governance failures, and a culture that overstretched itself. That collapse didn't mean WeWork vanished. It remains a recognizable brand with a substantial footprint in flexible workspace. Nor did it end Adam Neumann's entrepreneurial career. He now has new ventures attracting fresh capital, stirring debates about Silicon Valley's capacity for redemption or repeated mistakes. The WeWork saga shows that even in an era of near-limitless private funding, business fundamentals and sound governance can't be ignored forever. When vision outstrips execution by too wide a margin, the market inevitably steps in, forcing recalibration in ways that can be both painful and instructive.